I want to show you how easy it is to make your own backstrap loom. You can use sticks that you find around the yard to start. I happen to grow bamboo, or actually the bamboo grows in my yard. This is yellow groove bamboo, and you can see I have two about 20-inch wide sticks right there. And then down here at the other end of this, I have the other two sticks. So you'll need a total of 4 sticks. These are, because bamboo gets big in diameter, these are quite thick. They're very lightweight. Bamboo is a great thing to use if you have bamboo that grows around you. If not, you can use any kind of stick. And I'm mentioning this because not everybody can get to a hardware store to buy dowels. So you can find sticks in your yard. Try to find straight sticks, or as straight as possible. If you have an old tree, you might be able to take a couple of branches off. So you need 4 sticks. And then what you're going to need, this is a heddle that can be made out of Sculpey clay. But if you don't have that talent or don't want to do that, you can buy them online. You look for, on eBay, you look for a backstrap heddle. It's more economical to buy the Sculpey clay and make it yourself. And you just flatten it and cut it like that, so that you have a long slot for one warp and a hole for the other warp. And that's so that you can create a shed when you pull this up or down. The other method is string heddles and a roll bar, and we'll get to that later. We're gonna do, this is simpler to explain right now. So you need your 4 sticks, and you could get away without the back 2 sticks by looping your warp over a hook or a doorknob. But then you're going to need a piece of string just to tie the warp together at the top. And then you need a longer piece of string that is going to be tied at this end and at this end, and that allows you to hang the bar from a hook. Now, so why use a bar? I'll tell you why. This particular heddle has 17 slots in it, and that would make a narrow band or belt. But by using string heddles, you can actually use the full width of the bar or the stick. So if you want to look down the line a little bit, that maybe you want to make wider fabric, it's worth it to set it up with the sticks to begin with, because then all you do is learn how to use string heddles, and you can weave something as wide as you want. Now the other thing I have here is 2 key rings on a piece of string each, and when I get this one warped, these key rings will be tied at the end. And what that allows me to do is to make one rope belt or band belt, put clips on the end of it, and I can use the same belt to go from loom to loom to loom. It just makes it easier. You don't have to weave a belt for each loom. Very simple to make a backstrap loom, and I do recommend that you find sticks and use bars, simply because this one is about 18 inches long. You could then be making 18-inch wide fabric by using string heddles. Now here's a loom I just finished making, and you see what I mean about the top bar. I have the warp going through the 2 bars and then tied off, just to keep it together, a string to hang the bars with, the heddle, that I have to finish threading this. And what I have to do is stretch the loom out, and I have 2 strands going through each of the longer slots. I now have to use a small crochet hook, and which it depends on the size warp you're using, but sometimes a crochet hook helps, and pull one of the warps from each of the slots through the hole. And to do that, I need to untie the warp that I have at this end. Let me just move a little bit here. So when I was outside warping this, I just tied these on here quickly. I didn't take these two bars apart. Normally I would, and all of these warps would be tied to one bar. Then the second bar is pushed against the knots and tied tightly to hold that in place. And you can see I have the keychain rings on the end right here, so I can clip a belt on that. Now I'm making 4 of these today, and this one in front of me took about 10 minutes to make, including getting the heddle warped to this point. So again, now I will cut these, finish threading the heddle with 1 warp string per hole or slot, tie the warps back to the bar, clip on a belt, and I'm ready to go. So now, if you start with something like this, it's narrow, and then gradually work wider, you'll be so used to doing this, by the time you get to a wide fabric, it'll be easy. Very easy. I'd like to add something about making your own heddles. I've made one as wide as 9 inches with, I think, 47 holes. But I want you to look at this. I use Sculpey 2. You have to condition it by getting it warmed up in your hand. You can use any kind of a roller, or if you have a pasta machine for clay, roll it out flat, add smaller pieces as decoration if you want. But the idea of a heddle, the bottom row of holes here is if I want to add additional warps to do pickups. So I would have, say, white on the top, gray in the slots, and red at the bottom. Most of my weaving would be the white and the gray, and every once in a while I would pick up a red warp and add a design. To begin with, you don't need to do it that way. You can move the holes to the center area if you plan on making more than one heddle, and I used probably just a dinner knife to cut the slots out, and then I used you could use the point of a pencil to make the holes. And so each warp thread is going to go through a hole or a slot. And if this row of holes was in the middle, when you're weaving, if you pull it up, it separates the warp threads one way, and if you push it down, it separates them another way and creates your second shed. So it makes it, doing it this way is easier than using string heddles, but when we get to the string heddles, it's basically the same thing, where every other warp thread is going to have a string heddle on it that you actually either pull up or pull down to create the sheds. So a rigid heddle, even though this is made out of fairly flexible clay, this is considered a rigid heddle. 1 warp goes through a hole and 1 goes through a slot, and you want to make the slots the full length of your piece of clay, and your holes to start with can be in the middle. And like this is about 4 inches tall, that will give you a 2-inch shed in either direction. It doesn't really need to be taller than that, but they often make them about 6 inches tall with the holes in the middle and the slots. So then you get like a 3-inch shed in either direction. Simple to make. Sculpey 2. I think Sculpey makes, or Fimo might be another brand name, but I use Sculpey too, which you then bake in the oven. You have to follow the directions on the package, and it stays fairly flexible, but it's strong enough to use for a backstrap loom.